Hello and welcome to a tutorial about how to program a 2 GB or small SD card for a daily diary. The first things first, you need a micro SD and you need to get your computer or your laptop to read the micro SD. So you're going to want a micro SD card reader. Here I have a USB one where the SD card goes in there, but for this example I'm going to use a SD card to micro SD card adapter. I'm going to take the SD card I want to program, put it into the adapter. Make sure when programming we want the lock off and put in to our laptop. Perfect. Once the micro SD card is registered or read by the computer, we are then going to format the card. The idea of formatting it is going to clear any residual data. You don't necessarily need to do this with a brand new SD card, but it's always recommended. Now, there's two ways of doing this. There is the SD card formatter that you'll find in the DDMT file, which I've just opened up here, and it's zipped here, and you can use this to do a quick install. We recommend using this SD card format because using Windows, like I will show later on, has had its bugs in the past and should be avoided if possible. So for example, if you can't install this SD card formatter on the DDMT file, maybe you can use Windows, and that's why I'm going to show you how to use Windows later. Here's the SD card formatter. It should automatically detect the card. It's specifically for SD cards, and all you need to do is click Format. You'll notice at the moment I have Quick Format selected. Now, once again, this is situational. Realistically, you'll want to avoid using Quick Format, otherwise sometimes you may pick up residual data. So if you have the time and you have the organization, untick Quick Format and use Overwrite Format instead. This will be a lot slower, and it might be a bit of a challenge with some of the large cards, but for 2 GB it should be achievable. For this demonstration I'm going to use Quick Format because if you have a lot of cards, this might be the better solution, but it's worth remembering this key message that residual data can be left on the Daily Diary SD card when you use Quick Format. Yes, I want to continue, and it's formatted my card. Perfect, and we can double check that by opening our documents and just checking the SD card is clear, which it is. Perfect. So now quickly, I'm just going to show you the Windows way. So for whatever reason, your laptop won't allow it, or you forgot to, you can't use the SD card formatter we've recommended in the DDMT file, you can just get Windows to do it. So we do this by opening up the File Explorer. You right click the SD card drive, and then on the list you select Format. I like to restore device defaults, and then once again you have this Quick Format option, so you can either untick this if you have the time, or you can use the Quick Format. Okay, similar sort of process. Okay, so our card is clear. I've shown you both ways to do that. Let's code the card and get it programmed. So in this example, I'm going to be using the command line generator for small firmware from the 14th of May rather than the 20th of May. So I'm going to be showing the most, not necessarily user-friendly, but the solution that I find always works when programming these 2 GB cards. It's worth noting you have other programs with the similar Wild Bytes logo. You have the 16 to 32 GB enabled devices, which we want to avoid because those are large cards for long-term deployments. And we have obviously DDMT itself, the visualization software and the software that actually reads the data. So make sure you click on command line 14th of May small file firmware for the 2 GB cards. I fire it up, and up comes this panel. This is the command line generator. There's lots of different things you can get to use to reprogram your device, but I'm only going to go over the fundamental ones, the ones that you're likely to change. So the most likely variable you'll change on the command line generator panel is the acceleration frequency. This is the frequency of data you'll collect per second, but this also offsets not just the acceleration, but how frequent your magnetometer, your pressure, and your temperature is taken. Now, to change this, all you need to do is select from the drop-down menu. For example, I use a lot of 20 Hertz for long-term data because it should save on battery life. When you start to use the devices for short-term, you're more likely to access higher frequencies as it will give you better quality data, especially when you're looking at birds which move in tenths of a second. So to do this, you literally click down on the drop-down menu and select the frequency which is best. It's worth noting that your device, your Daily Diary device, has to be pre-programmed for that frequency. For example, if I had devices programmed for 80 Hertz, I can't just magically program them to collect 20 Hertz. They're not set up for that yet. For example, the devices I have at hand are the default 40, so I'm going to select 40. The other thing that you might change is logging hours. So this is how long you want the device to log for. Now, I would always set this to the maximum you can, because you never know, the device might get left on for whatever reason, and you want it collecting data the whole time. There's no point wasting that time it's attached to the animal. So the maximum the 2 GB firmware can log for is 29 days. So those are the two main things, but it's quite important to go over this. By default, the sleep is ticked. This means when the device switches on, the device will fall asleep. So you might want to untick this. This is usually the protocol that we follow, and we want the device to start powering, logging data as soon as we plug the device in. So we untick this. Once you're happy with all the variables you've changed, so the three went over was frequency, logging hours, and the sleep feature, we turn that off. We then generate the text string. Once you click generate, you'll get this random, well, it will appear random line of code, which semi makes sense to me, but would make no sense to you. Now, you want to take this line of code and put it into your SD card. We do this by viewing the SD card in the File Explorer. We right-click and we want to put in a blank text document. Once that's loaded up, we want to call the blank text document text. We just click off, so that's the name is all set. We open up this document. The Notepad feature should open it by default, and we just simply copy and paste our command line into the blank text document. We exit, make sure it's saved. And then a little tip I would recommend is having this preview view feature. You can find that in view and then the preview panel, because that will just show you that your line of text is in there. Once you're happy with that, all you need to do is eject your card. It's always best to safely eject the card, because there's a chance of 1 in 1,000 that actually just taking out the card without eject will cause some corruption. And there you go, you've programmed a 2 GB SD card